Welcome, and thanks for joining me today on Mortgage Manager Playbook, a podcast for sales leaders who want to improve their team's sales performance and originate more loans. I'm Pat Sherlock, your host. Today's topic is such an important one, the rise of the new loan officer. Our expert is Syta, and he is Managing Director of Bellco Credit Union and the Cherry Creek Mortgage Division of Guild joint venture. Previous to that, Dale was with many different mortgage companies and has had a long, successful career within our mortgage space. Hi, Dale.
How are you, Pat?
Good. And I'm excited about this topic because I think it's so important, and I think the changes have been very significant. And I know that you're passionate about this topic also. But before we jump in to the main topic, let's talk about how did you get into the world of mortgage banking?
That's a great question. So right out of college, I was managing a Ruth's Chris Steakhouse in Denver, Colorado. I was 25 years old, and we had the number one increase in sales restaurant for Ruth's Chris in the nation for 5 years running, and had all these clients coming in that were in their young 30s, and they were coming in 3, 4, 5 days a week. And I was like, what do you people do? And they were in the mortgage industry. So when it came time to make a change, quite honestly, I didn't know what a mortgage was. I didn't know what a good interest rate was, a bad interest rate, and went down to one of the offices and said, hey, listen, I'm interested in mortgages. And he said, come on down. First day, he handed me a rate sheet and 3 phone numbers and said, good luck. And here I am 22 years later and still cooking. So must have been a right move.
Well, it was, that's for sure. And similar to many other people's, how we got into the industry. But talk about your current challenges in your position now.
I'm a very optimistic individual. Number one, I don't really entertain, today's Wednesday. So I'm focused on what do we do today, Wednesday. But I would say that, the biggest thing that is the difficult part right now with limited inventory, high interest rates is really about loan officer motivation and keeping individuals engaged, understanding that it really takes a 10x effort to, reproduce, likely the result that they're looking for. And so, there's individuals, obviously we all have different mindsets and thought processes, but I think it's keeping a group motivated to keep, putting their gas on regardless of how difficult it becomes or what the scarcity levels are, et cetera, because there's still a tremendous amount of success that can be had if you're doing the right things. So I think that's really where we're at right now in this fourth quarter.
Well, we look at this fourth quarter. What are the challenges that you think mortgage bankers need to be looking at?
One of the things that I've been at a number of forums, sales forums recently, and it's kind of a tougher conversation because I think, as we've gone from 22 into 23 and a lot of the downsizing has obviously taken place, but there continues to be quite a bit of industry pressure. And I think what we're seeing is you've had a number of individuals that maybe have been solid producers in 20 and 21 and in a complete different market. And I think one of the challenges, do you have the right people on the bus for this given environment and the environment that we're going to move into in 2024. And, it's not really a place that companies can afford to have placeholders, individuals that are not willing to contribute and put big efforts forward. So I think it's kind of making sure that you are right sized, but you also just have the individuals that are prepared for, this given season that we're playing in, and it's a different season from 20 and 21, and so it takes a different mindset, and I think some companies are struggling with making some of those decisions, quite honestly.
I definitely see that, and I definitely agree 100%. But talk about your priorities for your sales force that you're focusing on for next year.
Truthfully, it's getting back to the basics, fundamentals. I think that, we realize that consistent success has obviously been rooted in the purchase business regardless, right? Refinance markets come and go, but it's, are we prospecting? Are we setting appointments? Are we doing database management, social media? Are we building awareness and education? Because there's been some data that's says that there's going to be 6 million potential buyers moving to the marketplace when rates fall 1%. How are we reaching those individuals while they're on the sidelines? So we're focused on high activity, basic fundamental prospecting and sales activity is really where our focus is. I don't really think we obviously went through a big change recently with our partnership with Guild. So we have product offering, we have technology, we have fulfillment, but it's are you putting your foot on the gas with consumer education and business development? So that's our fourth quarter and quite honestly 2024 focus will be really driven around that.
Well, I think that's a great segue to our main topic today to talk about the rise of the new loan officers. What is your thoughts on that? That the loan officer that was in the past, even when you joined or when I joined mortgage lenders, that loan officer is going to have a difficult time today.
Yeah, so you know what? I've been doing some, I guess I'm always thinking, but certainly you have the older, well-established loan officer. And I think one of the big fundamental differences is that loan officer, going back to when I started, has been accumulating contacts, right? So it's been about who they know, who's in their database, maybe their relationships that they've accumulated, but they've kind of struggled with, the today's prospecting style. Maybe they're kind of stuck in their own ways, where I think the modern loan officer is more focused on about who knows you versus who do you know, and how am I leveraging social media to educate the consumer, to capture someone's eye for when they are ready to engage. So I think the fundamentals of doing a mortgage, a lot of that principle is still there, right? We're still qualifying borrowers. There's still loan programs. There's, FICO, income, collateral, all those things remain. Yes, technology's advanced, but I think it's how we're sourcing our business is really evolving. And I think if you're not leaning into, today's world of tech, I personally I don't know too much about AI yet, but really starting to research those platforms, that's where we're headed here.
So, Dale, what is your thoughts on, it does lead itself to the issue of the average age of the loan officer in mortgage banking is still in the low 50s or late 40s. And the technology issues, which I see every day in our training world. And it does seem as if this would lead us to getting newer people in a younger group into our business, but that hasn't really happened.
I think across the board it hasn't, right? Number one, when we're talking recruitment, so many companies are focused on re-recruiting individuals from other companies. So what does that mean, right? They're pulling in a producer from another company. It's not a new person into this industry. One of the things that I can kind of honestly say the last 10 years of my career, for 5 of that, I was running a specific program designed about bringing new people into the industry. That was 5 years of dedicated effort just towards that. A lot of my recruitment efforts have been individuals that are just, I feel, quite honestly, they're hustlers, they're positive attitudes, they may have sales backgrounds, but maybe they're not, like myself, when I got into this industry, I didn't know a thing about it. I feel like we're pretty confident in teaching those nuts and bolts if I have the right characteristics and DNA. So we are leaning in. I would say, on my team specifically, we are, probably minus 15 to 20 years off of that. So we have a lot of individuals around 30, 35 years old. And I think that is something that the industry needs to be focused on because things are changing, and we've got to build this towards the future as well, right? As individuals kind of expire out of this or retire, that we've got to be replacing talent pool.
Well, I'm certainly with you on this topic, but I will have to say that it is a difficult topic for lenders because they talk about it, but the actual implementing of it is where they fall into the nervous Nelly component, that they feel that the individual won't be able to actually be successful quick enough, which is not true because, like yourself, I've been involved with a lot of those new individuals teaching on the prospecting side. But talk about, and this is a conversation that I've had recently with lenders regarding the type of person that we're looking for. I make the argument that we need to look for people that are influencers.
I would agree, right? I mean, so, if I looked at we use a tool or technology in part of our hiring process, and, we're looking for characteristics like high autonomy. So as an individual, like you said, an influencer, are they outbound in thinking? Are they involved in the community, always on the go, willing to put themselves out there? I think that's one piece of it. How's their personality, right? If there's individuals that have been in this business a long time that are more introverted and don't do a lot of that, but they've likely accumulated their business over a long period of time. So if I'm bringing someone in right here, right now, that needs to be effective relatively quickly, I need an individual that's going to be out there doing the work in and out events, hosting events, being more, like you said, an influencer, right? So how am I creating content? We're seeing a younger generation get their information in a complete different way than we did back 10 and 15 years ago. So this younger generation is leveraging TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. So are your individuals willing to put themselves in those environments? It's critical.
So what has been your success rate with taking people that had backgrounds like yourself and they came into the industry, and you're looking for that person that likes to meet people they don't know and actually has the drive to do that? What has been your success component?
It's an interesting, how are we defining success, I guess? But I would say if we're doing it, like, I think longevity, one of the things that I look at is, are these individuals able to, sustain themselves, be contributors to their companies, produce volume, et cetera? Are they all top producers? No, but are they individuals that are going to have long-standing careers in this industry? Yes, and I would say that that's probably 60%, to be honest with you, 50, 60%. But some of the most success right now on my team is individuals that have been in this industry 2 years or less.
Right.
And I think that, and that's largely because they don't know, again, they don't understand the history of various markets. They don't know what's good, what's bad. They just know that they have to do the work and do the thing. And they're finding the results. When they're putting up, $2.5, $3 million, $3.5 million months right now, that's pretty significant in this marketplace. So we're pleased with that.
Well, I agree with you completely. And we are involved with obviously training a lot of folks across the country. And what we see is the same thing you have seen, is that it's the younger people that are new to the business that have been identified correctly, as you were saying. And then obviously they've been taught well. And we see them, like I've had classes recently where they're doing these are people not in our business. They're young, driven, taught correctly to prospect in an influencer world. And they're doing 10 million this year, which is a lot of volume considering the industry is not even near that. So we have to, Dale, you and I have to correct this industry. The concepts are really way off base for sure. Thinking that this is just a cash burn. It's a cash burn because they haven't identified the right person or developed them. Talk about how you develop these individuals that become superstars.
I think there's a couple pieces, right? One is, I think if individuals are coming from various sales background, hopefully they have an understanding of business development. And I think the piece of this puzzle as it relates to the actual act of doing a mortgage, that is more about repetition, right? So each and every transaction obviously has its nuances, but the fundamental basis. So we've done things where some of those individuals will put through maybe some baseline education depending on their knowledge. But really, I'm doing a lot of daily one-on-one mentoring with individuals. How are we going about prospecting, how role playing, talking through word choice, and how they're tackling objections and things like that in this environment. And those individuals that are young and hungry and coachable, are taking those, they're taking those things and applying them. I don't like using too much of the fake it till you make it, right? I don't want to send people out there recklessly, but because I know that I'm really tied to these individuals throughout all these early transactions, I'm confident that we're not going to be, misrepresenting ourselves or our capabilities. And we also have a tremendous team of support staff where we have loan officer assistants that have been here, with in this industry for 20 plus years, that are absolute rock stars. So we have a lot of infrastructure of support that gives these individuals the confidence to just go out and find business. And then we help them backfill as they're gaining that knowledge.
So, Dale, the last question that I want to ask before we have to wrap up, I mean, this is really an important topic, definitely that lenders need to pay attention to, that you can have success early on. So what are the couple things that you would say that our listeners need to have as a takeaway today, that it does work if you develop your staff versus just hiring quantity and hoping some of them will work out?
Yeah, I mean, it's really making sure that, again, do you have the right people on the bus with the right characteristics? I think so. Right now, if people are recruiting that individual from another company that's not having success right now, and they're bringing them on thinking they have a gain, they're not going to have success at your company either, right? So you've got to really be trusting your instinct on, the background, the energy levels that these individuals are bringing, the passion. You're going to know instantly if people are committed or not committed, and you have to be willing to, cut sooner. I mean, it's not a matter of, fortunately, I don't have to do a lot of cutting because I've kind of honed this in a bit. But if individuals aren't putting forward the effort right here, right now, if they're not willing to build brands, to get creative, to try new things, then they're likely not going to, make it through, this fourth quarter and probably into 2024, as that fruit maybe starts becoming a little riper as we move late into 2024.
Any other last points that you would like to have as takeaways today?
For all of the, individuals that have been doing this as long as, we have, old dogs can learn new tricks, and it's important that you do, right? Technology advancements, social media, it's changing. So if you want to be part of this industry, then you need to continue to adapt, and it's never too late to learn. I think that's one thing that's I found the last 5 or 6 years is that I've leaned more into that, and it's paid its dividends. So keep learning.
Thanks, Dale, and thanks for sharing your wisdom on today's important topic. And thanks everyone for listening to Mortgage Manager Playbook. You can catch up on all our episodes at www.mortgagemanagerplaybook.com. Thanks for listening to Mortgage Manager Playbook. You can catch up on all our episodes by subscribing to receive each week a new show. Don't forget to share this podcast with your friends and team members. If you're looking to increase production, call me to discuss my prospecting sales training program, Ramping Up Realtor Referral Sources. Check out my website, www.patsherlock.com.